to Smith. Jabari for three and the win. Yeah! He got it!
We're here to Fuel Rockets News. It's a Rockets Fuel podcast, and as you can see, I'm in my car because I wanted to give a quick recap while I had the time of the Rockets' last couple of games where they were able to break that 3-game losing streak, and now they're on a 2-game winning streak after their easy win over the Detroit Pistons and last night over the Brooklyn Nets. For a while last night's game against Brooklyn, they did struggle in the first half, similar to where they did Detroit. And again, it seemed like a pep talk from M.A. Kind of spurred the team on to actually take the game seriously and take over and actually play some defense in the third quarter. They had a 47-point third quarter against Detroit a couple of games ago, and last night, again, they took control of the game late in the third quarter, and they pretty much coasted all the way in the fourth quarter as they were able to get their second victory because, yes, these two teams aren't exactly the top of the heap when it comes to NBA teams, but these next couple of games, they're going up against the Minnesota Timberwolves and Milwaukee Bucks, and the Timberwolves are surprisingly the number 1 seed in the West, and the Milwaukee Bucks are the number 2 seed out east, so they're going to be 2 tough games. Of course, the Rockets already lost to Milwaukee Bucks earlier in the year. We saw M.A. get tossed. We saw Dylan Brooks get tossed because they definitely weren't happy with the way the game was being officiated. And this is the first time they're playing Minnesota, which they'll be taking them on Friday. And Minnesota is probably the team that's probably embarrassed the Rockets the most. I remember just watching games the previous 3 seasons. It seemed like Minnesota always had a lot of fun playing those Rockets teams. We even remember Anthony Edwards telling the Rockets bench to call a timeout after he hit a 3 and pretty much telling them that they can't guard him. And it pretty much was the case for most of the games against Minnesota. It just seemed like that's the team that was trying to embarrass the Rockets the most. So it'd be really interesting to watch them go up against this version of the Rockets, where this version of the Rockets, it's a rare occasion when they actually get blown out. Yes, they're still hovering around 500, but most games they're usually in them. So it'll be really interesting. We don't know if Dylan Brooks will be back for that game. I'm thinking probably not. But we have seen Jabari Smith come out the last couple of games, so that's definitely been a welcome addition. But the main thing I really want to talk about, not just these previous 2 games, but just the whole season, has been Alperen Sengun. He has just been dominating all season long, but specifically the 6-game stretch he's on right now, he's been probably one of the top 10 players in the NBA. In the last 5 games, his lowest point output is 27 points, and that was against Detroit. And that was just because the Rockets blew Detroit out and the starter set for most of the fourth quarter, if not all the fourth quarter. In 3 of the last 6 games, he's scored over 30 points. And to put that kind of perspective, how dominant he's been this season, specifically in this last stretch, is in his first 173 games, he scored over 30 points 3 times. He has done that now 3 times in the last 6 games, and probably would have did it in this game, the game before that, in Detroit game, if the Rockets weren't blowing them out by 20 or 30 points in the fourth quarter. Alperen Sengun has got to the point now where you're really not even just talking about him being a possible all-star. We're talking about him possibly making an all-NBA team. That's how good he's been this season. He is to the point now where opposing coaches and players on a game-in, game-out basis, when somebody asks him, hey, so what happened? Why did you lose this game? The first thing out of their mouth is Alperen Sengun. Last night, they asked Brooklyn's head coach, Jacques Vaughn, asked him, what was the biggest difference in the game in the third quarter when the Rockets started to pull away and when the game was winning 5? He just said Sengun. That's all he said. And he kind of went on to talk more about Sengun, but we saw that from Darvin Ham talking about Sengun. We saw that from Rick Carlisle. We've seen opposing players like Tyrese Halliburton, Kevin Durant. All season long, people have been talking about Alperen Sengun and how dominant he's been this season. And it's just amazing to watch that when he was drafted, yes, it wasn't people that knew about him, how he was the MVP over in Turkey, and people expecting him to be good. But coming out of that draft, I don't think many people thought he would be the best player in that draft. And so far this season, he has been the best player in that draft. Jalen Green has been up and down. He's slowly coming out of his slump, but then he kind of had a little bit of off game last game. But Alperen Sengun is just taking off. He's been the number 1 player. Evan Mobley's been out hurt. Yes, I know there's Scotty Barnes and there's different players like that. But Alperen Sengun has continuously taking over games. It's to the point now where I remember talking to MA after some of the post games, and he always says that Sengun is a calming force or the calming presence, to where they're struggling on offense. They know they can dump it down on Sengun, and 9 times out of 10, he's going to make the right play. And it's not only that he's scoring, he's also rebounding, over 9 rebounds a game, over 5 assists a game, and he's shooting 55% from the field. So when he gets double teamed, he's going to usually make the right play. So teams can't just take him out of the game by, like some players, you can just take him out of the game by double team because they're not good passers. You can't do that with Sengun. You double team him, he's gonna find a guy cutting to the basket. You double team him, he's gonna find a guy for a wide open 3. So it's really hard to try to take Sengun out because he has so many different facets of his offensive game, and it's not just that he's great on offense. He's gotten a lot better on the defensive end to where he's not even a liability anymore, to where you can just leave him one-on-one guarding players like Jonas Valanciunas, who used to kill the Rockets for many years. Domantas Sabonis, another guy that used to have really good games against the Rockets. He's not the one getting in foul trouble like he was previous season. He is the one that is getting other teams' big men in foul trouble. He's doing that game in a game on basis, which is another thing that's helped the Rockets because, like last night, when Nicholas Claxton was trying to guard him, he did a decent job, but Sengun got him in foul trouble, and then when you get 5 fouls, it's a lot harder to guard somebody. It was the same thing with Jonas Valanciunas when the Rockets beat the Pelicans like a week or so ago. He got him in early foul trouble to where they had to keep putting smaller guys on him, and Sengun was able to dominate. Brooklyn tried to double team Sengun last night. It was a couple times he split the double team. It's just amazing to watch how far he's come, and that the Rockets basically were able to get him with a mid-round first pick. At this point, if you do a redraft, I would be shocked if he's not top 2. I mean, he probably should be number 1, but I mean, it might be some people that might draft somebody else. But at this point, he's definitely a top 2 if you're doing a redraft. And the All-Star voting also came out today. He's actually top 7 in All-Star voting. So that's something to keep in mind and remember tomorrow. The NBA is actually letting you, if you vote once, it counts 3 times. So that's something to keep in mind, Rockets fans. He may not make it as a starter. He probably won't make it as a starter because there's 6 guys in front of him as far as the front court. But he's still a chance he can make it as a reserve because a lot of NBA coaches know about Alperen Sengun. And when you talk about reserve, it really has nothing to do with the fan voting. It's more about the coaches and what they want as far as the reserves are concerned. So he still has a chance to make it as a reserve, even if he doesn't make it as a starter. But right now, he's number 7 as far as Western Conference front court players. Another couple of people I want to talk about before I wrap up this quick recap of the last couple games for the Rockets is the Rockets rookies. They've had an up and down season. We know Amen's been dealing with a lot of injuries all the way back to the offseason. We know that Cam's been back and forth between the G League and not necessarily getting a lot of playing time. But last night, Cam Whitmore got the playing time early in the first quarter, something you haven't seen a lot from him. He is almost at a point a minute. If you go look at his total points and his total minutes, he's at one point he was like at 55 points in 66 minutes, and then he was at 66 points in 88 minutes. It's just crazy that basically when he comes in, he's going to get you a bucket. And he did that again last night. He had 11 points, one of his better games as a pro, as he got a good amount of playing time. If I'm not mistaken, he got around 17 minutes last night. And also Amen Thompson, who's slowly working his way as that backup point guard that the Rockets sorely need so that Fred VanVleet is not playing 40 minutes a game. Because at one point, Fred VanVleet, if not now, he was leading the league in minutes. That's something you don't want to see from your 30-year-old veteran point guard. You don't want him leading the league in minutes. But now that Amen is slowly getting his footing under him, he had another double-digit game last night. He played 20 minutes. Another thing that stood out to me is that the rookies were playing all the way into like the 7-minute mark in the fourth quarter when it was still a fairly close game. The Rockets were up like 10 or 12 points. The rookies were still playing, and that kind of shows that NBA is kind of getting a lot more, I would say, comfortable with the rookies, something that I think that'll go a long way as far as it comes to whether they're getting a lot of playing time going forward. So that was something good to see. I know there's injuries, and yes, that factors into the Tyrese and wasn't playing, but I think if Cam particularly keeps playing the way he's playing, I think he can carve his way into a rotation. And I think the thing with MA is he wants consistency on defense. He want to make sure you're in the right spot. It's not just about being a scorer, but he want to make sure he can trust you on the defensive end and that you're not going to turn the ball over and you're going to be in the right spots. So if Cam can continue to do that, I think he can eat into those Jae'Sean Tate minutes. I think he's already passed Reggie Bullock. We saw that last night. He came in before Bullock even hit the floor. So I think he can take some of those tape minutes even when Tyrese and Dylan Brooks get back. So that'd be something interesting to watch as well. I don't think we'll see Cam going back to the G League at all this season. I think he's firmly on the team now. Now it's just a matter of whether he's going to get the minutes or not. But this was probably the best combo game we saw from Amen and Cam together in one game so far this season. So I don't think Dylan will probably be back this Friday. I don't know about Tari. That's a whole other story. He's still dealing with that lower leg injury that he's been dealing with for the last several weeks. I think that's something he's going to be dealing with throughout this season. We talked to Coach after one of the games, he said that it's just something that he's trying to fight through, and it's going to be kind of a game in, game out basis on whether he plays. And maybe just a matter of him having to take more of extended time to be able to rest that lower leg, maybe around the All-Star break. But at this point now, he's pretty much a game time decision pretty much every single game. So that's just something to keep in mind. But it's good to see Cam and Amen getting their footing and actually getting the minutes to be able to go out there and play. But again, the Rockets were able to break their 3-game winning streak against Pistons. They've now won 2 straight. Now the real test comes up on Friday. They take on the Minnesota Timberwolves, the number 1 team in the Western Conference. And then on Saturday, they take on the Milwaukee Bucks, the number 2 team in the Eastern Conference. And I'll be out at the game Saturday, so I'll have all the pre- and post-game interviews up on the YouTube channel. And again, I want to thank everybody for their support. We're well over 1,200 subscribers now, and we only started back in May, so that's pretty amazing that we're already up to over 1,200 subscribers. So we definitely appreciate support. So if you're not subscribed and you're seeing this for the first time, definitely make sure you subscribe, because that helps us with the YouTube algorithm, and that helps other people see this Rockets content that we continue to try to put out. So make sure you subscribe, make sure you hit that like button. Me and Vader will be back on Sunday for a podcast recapping the Friday and Saturday games. So make sure you check that out as well. And as usual, we appreciate all support, and make sure you check out the next episode of the Rocket Fuel Podcast.